there's millions of updates on this tragic death of Liam, but this has been the one that's kind of been floating around this week.
It is a mystery. Where has this watch gone? The family have kept details of the funeral closely under wraps. All of Liam's One Direction bandmates will be there. P Diddy was such a huge star.
A guest who allegedly attended his freak-off parties said that there were minors present. It's going to be P Diddy's list, like it was Epstein's list.
Danny is the favourite to win because...
Oh, is he? So how do you make a favourite already?
So some of the celebrities are rumoured to maybe be on Ozempic, but they will still have
Ozempic. What I would struggle with is that is terrifying.
Well, I mean, is like the thinking gal's crumpet. He's a hunky guy.
Of course.
Is he the sexiest man alive?
Welcome to Virgin Radio's Showbiz Wrap. I'm Maddie, Hale, and every week, The Sun on Sundays, Hannah Hope and I will be breaking down the biggest entertainment stories that you need to know. Firstly, we've got more updates on Liam Payne's tragic death. We're going to start with this clip that I'm going to show Hannah here of this interview that I did earlier in the week with former Met detective Peter Blexley. He spoke to me about the latest updates on the investigation into Liam's death. One of the things that they've been looking into is where his Rolex went.
There are images of Liam being on his laptop only a matter of hours before he died, and other pictures that clearly showed Liam in possession of his Rolex. But when the authorities searched his room, which, by the way, is still sealed off and can only be accessed on the word of an Argentinian judge, there was no trace of this watch found. Undoubtedly, it was a valuable timepiece, and so the authorities are still keen to try and find out where it is and who's got it.
Hannah, obviously, every time you come on the show, there's millions of updates on this tragic death of Liam, but this has been the one that's kind of been floating around this week of where did his £30,000 watch go?
It's very dark, isn't it? And clearly it seems like someone must have taken it, whether that was in the room immediately after the death or even when, you know, his body was tragically being recovered. Because as you say, and as Peter says, it is a mystery. Where has this watch gone? Someone's clearly got it. It's interesting, isn't it, that the room is still sealed off. It's still being, you know, so long after the actual death. So clearly, you know, they're still searching it, looking for evidence. I think as well, the laptop that he was in possession of, that will hold lots of clues in the lead up to his death and what may have been going on, you know, in terms of messages, in terms of what he was doing. But it is really sad that there's this another element to the whole death, and you know, probably for the family, they just want to focus on giving Liam a good send-off and not having to worry about all these other elements like a missing Rolex.
And because I guess what we kind of figured out was it did feel like his time in Argentina, he'd been taken advantage of because he was a vulnerable person with a drug and alcohol addiction or past, and it felt like these locals had come in and taken advantage of him, or he had, you know, maybe sought them out, wherever it may be. But if that is the case and someone who was actually in the room with him had stolen it, it just feeds into that narrative that he just wasn't in the right state of mind.
Absolutely. As you say, you know, there's been several arrests made, people being interviewed about those moments that led up to his death. I think that you know, so there's definitely been some supplying of drugs going on. And if these nefarious characters were around him, I'm sure, you know, potentially one of them could have taken this watch. But it does create such a sad picture. You know, you had this really successful British singer who, you know, had such amazing heights to his career and then meeting a very sad, dark end.
Yeah, and those arrests that they've been publicised in the last week or so, there's been 3 arrests, as you say, in the connection to Liam's death, but one of them is that alleged drug dealer. They arrested this local Argentinian who says he didn't supply any drugs to Liam. He partook in taking drugs with Liam and they met at a restaurant. What's happened here?
Well, I mean, look, this is a known drug dealer. Can we say everything he takes as he says as gospel? I don't know. I think that certainly people around these tragic situations always want someone to blame, and they want answers, because I think as well, you know, Argentina doesn't want to be seen as a place that is, you know, not safe and where tourists are kind of preyed upon. So I think, you know, a lot of the local authorities are looking for answers. I know as well there's been lots of questions asked with some of the staff at the hotel. You know, should Liam have been sent back to the room when they called police before he actually passed away? You know, and they were probably looking at some of the staff and were they involved with supplying and indeed taking things from his room?
There was that one staff member who was arrested or who's been charged with supplying drugs and sneaking it through that Dove soap box that was found in his room when investigators did go in there. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think as well, you know, you just wonder why he was sort of on his own. I think his girlfriend Katie had gone back to America, and he didn't seem to sort of have anyone with him who was necessarily looking out for him. So it would have been very easy for locals to have preyed on this vulnerable person.
And it was revealed this week or late last week that it has been confirmed through the final autopsy that Liam was fully unconscious when he did tragically fall off the balcony.
Yeah, that it's been confirmed. I mean, I suppose that can provide some, you know, fans and family with a level that have known that he wasn't at least in any pain when he passed away because he was already unconscious. But yeah, all very sad. We also know now that his body has been repatriated to the UK and there's going to be a funeral early next week in his hometown of Wolverhampton.
Yeah, can you tell me more about this funeral? Because obviously fans and friends and anyone that follows this ordeal has been waiting for a funeral to happen because it's nearly been a month now, so it is quite delayed.
Yeah, obviously there was lots of investigations going on with the autopsy, so it took a while, and we know that there was those tragic pictures of his dad sort of look at the hotel visiting the memorial, but he's, you know, arranged for the body to come home. And yeah, the family have kept details of the funeral closely under wraps. I think that they want it to be a fairly private affair, but of course, you know, figures from the music industry and the showbiz world are rumoured to be going. It's been reported that all of Liam's One Direction bandmates will be there. Niall, Harry Styles, Louis Tomlinson, and even Zayn Malik. But what a tragic way for these lads to reunite.
When One Directioners have been waiting years for this reunion, thinking it was actually going to happen, and then obviously got the news that poor Liam had died. But what do you think the scene of the funeral is going to be? Do you think it's going to be quite private, even if those stars are going, or do you think it's going to be more of like a big public thing for anyone to be able to, I guess, attend?
I definitely think it's going to be private for friends and family, and it's going to be essentially like an invite-only situation. But I'm sure that there will be memorials held locally so fans can sort of, you know, commemorate him and celebrate his life. Zayn Malik has actually got a gig later that week, so it will be interesting to see what he says on stage and if he references it at all. It's been reported that Simon Cowell is going to attend. Cheryl, who is Liam's ex, the mother of his child Bear, will be attending. There's also thought that maybe Nicole Scherzinger, who has a break in her Broadway show over in New York, will attend because she took part in his last filmed reality show, which was Building the Band, which is currently on hold by Netflix. They're not sure what they're going to do. I think they're going to wait and see, you know, what happens with the funeral. And Netflix have actually said they're going to talk to the family before releasing it. But it absolutely will be, you know, an all-star event. And I'm sure there'll be other figures from the music industry. Rita Ora potentially will go. She was a good friend of Liam's, and did
a tribute to him the other day, didn't she?
At the MTV Awards. And I don't know. I can imagine people like Ed Sheeran and Ollie Wurs wanting to go and pay their respects. A lot of people want to pay their respects, I think.
Do you think it's going to be a bit of a media phenomenon, though?
I think it's going to be interesting how the media covers it. They're obviously going to be quite careful to respect the wishes of the family, that they want it to be a private event. But also it's going to be something that we haven't seen before, especially given that One Direction was such a huge band worldwide, and we're going to have these huge showbiz figures flying in for this event. So, yeah, it's going to be very sad, but it is going to be, you know, interesting to see it play out all the same.
And hopefully dealt with well, because even Peter Blacksley was saying to me in our interview earlier in the week, he just said, you know, I wish this investigation was handled behind closed doors, but unfortunately when you've got such a big name, an investigation like that just does seem to seep in to the media, and obviously we're covering it now, but it's not closed. This investigation into his death is not closed. A lot of denying from the hotel worker, from the alleged drug dealer, who just says that we did drugs together. We met at a hotel, we met at a restaurant, and we just became friends. We exchanged Instagrams, and that was kind of all that there was to it. But it's still going on, Hannah, and we'll obviously cover any updates for our viewers as time goes on. But we're going to have a gear shift here and move on to P Diddy. You and I haven't covered P Diddy in this ongoing saga as he's in prison right now, but the latest update is that a guest who allegedly attended his freak-off parties, which these like random massive sex parties that he is alleged to have had and orchestrated, this person has come out and said that there were minors present at these parties.
Really dark, really shocking. I mean, as this story unravels, it just feels like it's getting more and more disturbing. The accounts of partygoers, coming out, and yeah, it sort of seems that it was allowed to happen almost in plain sight, because P Diddy was such a huge star, such a massive music mogul, and he invited so many well-known celebrities to these parties, and yet behind closed doors it does seem like some really sinister things were going on.
And the internet's going wild trying to guess who was there. And in terms of the minor situation, the internet is going crazy saying that they think that Justin Bieber attended these parties when he was a minor, which would obviously be so kind of detrimental to that time in his life when he was struggling so much. But is there any indication on what minors could have been there?
I think there's a lot of people guessing. Like you said, Justin Bieber was very much sort of thrown into that showbiz world. He was being mentored by Usher. So it could seem that he was there. I don't know if any pictures have been released of him at these parties. I think that people who are probably quite worried are people like the Kardashians who attended, other rappers like maybe sort of Jay-Z. I know Eminem has actually kind of, through his lyrics, been warning about stuff that was going on behind closed doors at P Diddy's parties. There was, if you look back through some of his songs, there's been sort of hints.
Well, 50 Cent's been absolutely roasting him online.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it seems that in the rapper sort of hip-hop world, people were aware of what was going on, but people weren't doing anything, which is very sad.
And it's just one of those things, Hannah, where it felt like back in the day, 5-10 years ago and beyond, you could get away with so much. And I'm not obviously criminalising P Diddy because he hasn't even faced a trial yet, but it does feel like you can't get away with anything. Even if it was years and years ago, decades ago, as we learned from the Harvey Weinstein situation, it will come out eventually.
Yeah, completely. And what's really interesting is that P Diddy wasn't really hiding, the fact that he was a big party animal. Yeah. All his videos were kind of like partying, girls. He made it part of his brand, didn't he? But I think the fact that, so we all kind of bought into it, the public kind of, this is what we were expecting from P Diddy, you kind of associate him with yacht parties, champagne, white parties, celebrities.
Yeah.
But then you're right, now actually if you look closer, now that there's sort of lawsuits coming out and women saying, no, what was going on was not consensual, it was really bad, it's all quite shocking, and we're sort of thinking, oh my goodness, you sort of step back and what the brand that we've been buying into is actually
and the music
not okay.
looking very predatory and very sexist, as we probably assumed it was regardless. But basically, for anyone that doesn't understand what he's been accused of, there was the federal investigation that kind of kick-started this. I think it was handled by the Homeland Security Office, and they raided his house and took his laptops and blah, blah, blah. And there's over 100 testimonies in that investigation. And then outside of that, there's individual lawsuits that have come out of various women who, and I think one man, who say that they were victims of abuse from P Diddy, various things. But I want to show you this clip here because I interviewed a celebrity lawyer, Lisa Bloom. She represents a singer, Dawn Rashad, who filed a lawsuit within a week of the federal investigation, also making those charges against P Diddy.
In our case and in the federal criminal case, we're not just against Sean Combs, but against a large number of people who are accused of being his enablers, because we know from history, people like Jeffrey Epstein, I represented 11 of his victims. These guys don't just do this by themselves. They have to have a large number of people who are complicit in order to have an operation this big and to have this many accusers.
And that was an interview that I did a few weeks ago with Lisa, but it's an interesting take. She says that this can't be an operation that P Diddy did by himself, if obviously he is found guilty of orchestrating these parties.
Absolutely. I mean, these were huge, large-scale parties. You know, he would have had handlers, middlemen or women inviting the guests, sourcing the models, you know, who are now thinking, wow, actually what happened to me was not okay, it was non-consensual, and I'm going to speak up about it.
Yeah.
Bravely, you know, bravely doing so. But yeah, he would not have done this alone. And yeah, it is absolutely similar to what happened with Jeffrey Epstein on that island.
And similar to the Jeffrey Epstein situation in the sense that it's a domino effect of victims coming out. And what Lisa was saying is basically Dawn Rashad had no intention of coming out and accusing P Diddy of these various things. But what happened was Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, when she came out and made those allegations, filed that lawsuit against P Diddy, a week later it was settled. But then that CCTV footage came out of him abusing her in the hotel hallway. The reason why Dawn Rashad even filed the lawsuit with lawyer Lisa Bloom in the first place is because she had no intention of doing so. But then Cassie Ventura finally, after years, filed her lawsuit. I think it was December last year. Then it was settled a week later. But then that CCTV footage came out of P Diddy hitting her in the hallway of the hotel. And so then Dawn Rashad said, no, I'm going to file a lawsuit as well. And it just happened to coincide with the federal investigation. So it's an interesting situation where we've got these insane testimonies of women. And when he does face trial, I think it might be in March, who knows what allegations are going to be made in that courtroom.
It's going to be absolutely bombshell. And I'm also reading that, you know, a lot of the celebrities present at these parties are now very concerned, very worried that, you know, that they're going to be sort of dragged into this, linked to him. Will they be called as witnesses? You know, it's really going to affect the showbiz landscape, especially in America. But as you mentioned, that footage that we saw of him abusing Cassie, I mean, it's just absolutely shocking, very upsetting to watch and unforgivable. So it's really good that he is being kind of held to account, I think, by the law.
And it's going to be P Diddy's list, like it was Epstein's list. Like Harvey Weinstein had an insane list of victims that came forward, and he was obviously jailed. And P Diddy is in jail until he does face court. But now that we've got a new presidency in the US, we will by January 20, Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump's oldest son, he tweeted that we want the whole list of who was there. Sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Ooh, so he wants all the other like rap stars who are there partying. So he wants to hold everyone to account. So we are going to see, so some people will be worried, won't they?
The Trumps notoriously hate Hollywood. So it will, when Donald Trump when he is inaugurated, it will be interesting to see if he uses his presidential power. I don't know how you do this and if it's even, you can do this in a court of law, but demands this list to be publicised.
I mean, there'll be a lot of rappers and other big figures quaking in their boots, I imagine. But it will be really interesting to see. I mean, but just because you were present at a party doesn't necessarily mean that you were, doing anything. But I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. It could get very juicy indeed.
It's just going to be a situation where money sometimes isn't power, and everyone can face the law. Hannah, we're going to move on to some breaking news. Well, some breaking news this week, which was exciting news. John Krasinski named the sexiest man alive for People magazine. What did you think about that?
Well, no, look, poor John. A lot of people have been a bit shocked by this. I've got to say, he's a hunky guy.
Of course.
Is he the sexiest man alive? Not for me. Not for me, Maddie. What about you? What do you think?
I have to say, I do like it when people name... someone not just so hot boy of the moment. I kind of love that, John Krasinski is more than just a good-looking guy. He's a personality. He's a personality hire. Everyone loves him. And so I just think that the timing is kind of random because even last year it was Patrick Dempsey. Patrick Dempsey is God's gift, but he is certainly not in his heyday career-wise, and I'm just kind of confused by these picks. How do they do it?
Well, I mean, John is like the thinking gal's crumpet, isn't he?
Yeah.
As you say, he's a personality hire. He's obviously married to Emily Blunt, British beauty, who's doing incredibly well as an actress in Hollywood. But yeah, I think as well that with that announcement, there was some pitch. I don't really imagine John as like a kind of sexy guy. I kind of know him best from The Office America, and he's sort of there suited and booted. But with this announcement, they had some pictures of him topless, and he is indeed very gym-honed and fit.
Do you think he would have shredded for the photo shoot?
Yeah, definitely, of course. I mean, he had a banging six-pack, didn't he?
I love it when people get named Sexiest Man Alive and they're confused. Like, I think it is so entertaining when they publicly genuinely look quite confused as to why they got it.
Yeah, it's cute. And also, we love modesty, don't we?
Yeah.
Especially over here in the UK. We're not as kind of loud, proud and confident as they are in America.
No.
Who's your sexiest man alive, Maddie?
Who is my sexiest man alive? I'm a huge Miles Teller fan. And I have been, well, because if you're asking me that, you're asking me who my whole pass is, pretty much. And I have been a fan of his before Top Gun Maverick. I just think he's got this suave and charm about him, but he's so good looking as well.
Yeah, he's kind of less obvious. He's quite a clever
Who's yours?
Well, I'm going to go for a Brit.
Cool.
Emily in Paris star Lucien Laviscount.
How incredibly random. I think he's really good looking, but I think he really knows it.
Yeah, he definitely knows it. He's done so well, though. Like, he's kind of come up through, like, British random TV dramas, and now, he's being touted as a potential James Bond option, which is exciting.
And when he was on Emily in Paris, when I was watching her break up with him, what are you doing? Like, what are you, blind? Like, what are you doing? Like,
they'd have such pretty children, wouldn't they?
Okay. Well, we'll just say congrats to John Krasinski.
Yes.
And as a side note, congrats to Prince William for winning Sexiest Bald Man of 2024, second year in a row, just to end on that one.
Would we call him fully bald? I feel like he's still got a bit of hair going on there. Yes,
balding.
Yes, definitely.
So we're moving into quite a big season for you, Hannah, as someone who thoroughly enjoys I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here and covers it for work. You and I have spoken off camera. I don't know any of these people as an Australian who's learning not only British delicacy, but British names and faces and figures, and how popular is this show, and who are these people, and who is going to win this show?
So, okay, this is one of the primetime entertainment shows in the UK. It's hosted by Ant and Dec, who are like national treasures for us Brits. And I think they're brilliant hosts because they take the mickey a bit and they're really funny with the way they do it. But essentially, you've got all these celebrities plonked in the jungle in Australia and having to live rough, sleep in camp beds outside with all the creepy crawlies. But yeah, the biggest name on there is WAG, Colleen Rooney, who, is absolutely privileged and lives in like £1 million mansion, married to football icon Wayne Rooney. But other names we've got a Strictly Come Dancing star, Oti Mabuse, Loose Women star Jane Moore. We've also got TikToker GK Barry.
I do follow her.
Oh, do you? Okay,
Yeah,
so you're
I've
a fan
seen
of
her.
hers, are you? Do you like her?
I've followed her. I think she's quite funny. I feel like because she's actually quite down to earth.
Yes.
I think she'll be okay out there.
I think she'll be quite wisecracky. We've got Talisa, who was on N-Dubs. I've just talked about the women. The blokes, we've got McFly singer Danny. Speaking of McFly, Danny is the favourite to win because...
Oh, is he?
The McFly,
so how do you make a favourite already?
Because they look at the fan base and look at like social media followers. I mean, McFly fans are diehard over here in the UK, so he's already one of the favourites.
But how do you win? Don't you just...
Public vote.
Oh, it's like Big Brother.
Yeah, it's like Big Brother.
Oh, I thought it was like you win from challenges.
You win in challenges, they win stars, and that is to, they get kind of limited amount of food. They live on rice and beans, poor things.
Oh, and they lose quite a bit of weight, don't they?
They all get super skinny, but we had a story a while ago. So some of the celebrities are rumoured to maybe be on Ozempic, but they will still have they will still have access to this fat slimming jab.
Shut up.
On it. Yeah, which is actually...
They get to take into the jungle.
If they're prescribed it, yeah. So it's kind of a cheat, isn't it? Because it kills your appetite. So yeah, that's quite funny.
That is such an advantage.
It is
And
an
also,
advantage.
could you imagine, I can just imagine the absolute bogans in Australia finding out that they've got these people living rough in Queensland and they're
Trying to break in.
and they're on Ozempic.
Oh, right, yeah, I mean, exactly. It is a little bit of a joke. But, you know, I think also it's really hard just living in the jungle. I've actually been out to the set and visited it. Just being in there, it's so hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
And the creepy crawlies everywhere. And this isn't even like the trials, the bush tucker trials they have to do. There's like bugs and they don't have like clean water. They have to use a dunny. They have a jungle shower to wash in. It really is like
Oh, they've got to use
gross.
a dunny.
Yeah, they've got to use a dunny.
Well, it's a good time of the year, to be honest. Actually, no, because how long are they there for?
3 weeks. They're
Oh,
out there for
okay.
3
Well,
weeks.
at least it's not January or February.
Right.
Because it's going to start getting wet up there, because it's not too far north. It's Coolangatta, as you said.
Right.
So it's
But what they have difficulties with the production is the weather in general, because there could be storms and there's heat waves and there's mosquitoes. I mean, living in Australia, you know firsthand that you have to live around spiders, snakes. It's difficult, right?
It's difficult, but it would be more difficult for them because I've been in metropolitan Sydney, and even though spiders are just a part of the game, they're everywhere. They're not just out in the bush. They're literally everywhere. But you become more accustomed to spiders. What I would struggle with is snakes. That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And you're in their world out there because there's so much space, obviously, in the. Do they call it the jungle? I don't know.
They call it the jungle,
I guess it's
but
just bush.
Yeah,
it's just bushland.
It is bushland, yeah. But I guess we call it the jungle because they're kind of amongst these big trees. But in previous episodes and series, we've had them just sleep because they're not even covered up at night. They're just sleeping in these sort of hammocks. And we've had situations where one of the celebrities will wake up and start batting down their sleeping bag, and there'll be a rat or a massive spider. These aren't even the trials. Anything can just crawl in and get into bed with them.
I'm actually going to watch it now. Who are you putting your money on?
I'd like to see Colleen Rooney from the Wagatha Christie fame do well out of it. I'd like to see. I think it's quite nice just watching these celebrities rough it. Because
what do you win?
You win nothing other than the notoriety of being king or queen of the jungle. But obviously,
I wouldn't be doing it for that.
No, they obviously get paid to take part, and they get paid a lot. of money.
So they get paid to go on there.
Yeah, Colleen, I think, has netted rumoured to be about £1 million deals.
Wow.
They have to complete the show though. They can't leave early. That's the whole point. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. If any of them,
But
leave,
don't you get voted off?
you get voted off, but if they leave on their own accord, they don't get any of the money.
Oh.
So yeah, they have to rough it.
This is amazing. I love that they're roughing it in just one of the states of my country. It's hilarious.
Well, it starts on Sunday. Watch the first episode. I'm really interested to see what you think of it.
This is such a plug for it.
Yeah.
We're just finishing up here, Hannah. The Wicked premiere in London is happening on Monday, and this has felt like the Barbie, Oppenheimer, Gladiator and Wicked thing, but it feels like this press tour has been going on for years.
And it hasn't even landed in the UK yet.
Yeah.
There's been so much hype around this movie. They've been making it for years. They were making it during lockdown. It was one of the few films that was able to continue being made over here. Also, they've had issues with the actors' strike in Hollywood, which is why they moved production over here. There's been drama in it because Ariana Grande actually got with a munchkin on the show, an actor who played a munchkin.
I was like, what? Oh, you mean Ethan?
Yeah, he split with his partner.
Yeah.
So there's been loads of drama attached to it because he was actually married.
Yes.
And then, she plays the Pink Witch, and then we've got Cynthia Avero playing the Green Witch. So,
and these two are best friends and cry on every red carpet, which I'm loving.
Do you believe that they're best friends?
Oh my God, are they not?
Well, I
believe
think they do seem to actually get on, actually. But
I believe that they are. I'm a sucker for these relationships that actors build on the shows, and then they do the press tour and they look like they're all just having the time of their lives.
They're always holding hands, which I find a tiny bit grating. I'm like,
a bit
okay, we get it.
cringe.
A little bit cringe. But do you know what? I'm really excited about it. I love Christmas.
Are you going?
I actually, now don't judge me, I actually turned down my opportunity to go because, I'll tell you why, I want to go and watch it in the theatre with my family, as a Christmas thing, because sometimes, you just want to make a tradition out of it. So I'm actually looking forward to going to the cinema locally with my mum and my sister. We just do it every Christmas.
That's
and we go
really
and see.
Sweet.
So it was either going to be Wicked or Moana 2, which is also going to be a big movie.
Oh, well, you'll have
but
to go to that.
I'm very excited, yeah.
Oh, well, we'll be waiting and watching for those reviews to come in of the Wicked movie. That is all the time we have left on Virgin's Showbiz Wrap. Thank you to Hannah Hope, and we will see you all next week.